gusting in the wind. He wants to start somewhere, and Falcons owner Arthur Blank is open to it if it helps the Falcons, telling Josh Kendall of The Athletic. At the end of the day, what happens, happens. That's my theory, you know. Maybe something pre-draft, draft, or post-draft. Well, thank you, Arthur. I don't know. But he understands what our needs are and what we have to do as a franchise. So 3 suitors for Cousins. We'll start with the Browns. Are the Browns contenders if he goes to Cleveland?
Listen, contenders to win the Super Bowl. Right now, I think that list is about 6 teams long. If you expand it to where it's like making the playoffs means you're a contender, sure. So no, they're not a contender, but it's definitively what I would do if I were them. I think they could be good. I think that team, it allows you to either pair Myles Garrett with Abdul Carter or pair, your offense and your defense with Travis Hunter. With your number 2 pick of the draft, it allows you to get an instant impact player. I think Stefanski, maybe not good enough to deserve 2 separate Coach of the Year awards, but is a good head coach and, obviously was with Kirk Cousins when Cousins had won his only career playoff game, had his, best statistical season, and I think they could absolutely be good. And so, I think that would make a ton of sense for the Browns. I think it's last week why I think the Falcons did not release Kirk Cousins and instead allowed another $10 million to guarantee in his contract was because they were very convinced that Cleveland is going to trade for him.
Well, there's also a giant number if you release him right now in terms of a salary cap hit with dead money for Atlanta, so they couldn't release him anyways. In terms of him being, the Browns being contenders, I don't even know if they're a contender in the division if they get him. I think he's probably a better answer than Kenny Pickett.
But he's definitely better than Kenny Pickett, Coach.
The thing that you look at last season, so there's 6 #1 draft picks on Atlanta's offense. They've got explosive playmakers, at tight end, at wide receiver, at running back. He's playing in a dome, and then he has a season that he has. And he lead the league in interceptions
I don't want to interrupt you, but you didn't, Wilds. What did Walking Boot Weekly teach us this year?
Y'all didn't give Rodgers that benefit of the doubt.
I have a problem.
What?
We're at an editorial fiasco
What do you mean?
at Walking Boot Weekly.
Walking Boot Weekly taught me the Achilles is a 2-year injury.
Yes, Dr. Rosenblatt, who I have now Instagram, exchanging messages with, like, I'm here for Walking Boot Weekly, says, you know what, the Achilles is a 2-year injury. I said, great. That makes sense. The longer it heals, of course. It's not a 1-year injury. Then Josh made this graphic. I said, Josh, we might oust you from the editorial board of Walking Boot Weekly. The first 9 games where I thought he wasn't any good.
He was cooking.
He was all right. And then the last 5 games, as he was supposed to be getting healthier, he throws 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions. So there was just a meltdown. It was almost a mutiny in the editorial offices of Walking Boot Weekly. So,
okay. Well, let's talk about this, though. First off, again, it's tough just to look at those numbers. Because, again, like I always say, numbers are numbers, not to mention, he had the game where, like, it was wild against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he threw, let's bring that up right now. Let's not bring it up right now. But he threw for a ton of yards. It was one of those great. I think was it 500 yards or something, like something outrageous. So that's obviously going to boost some of your numbers up there. I think he played pretty well. Like this whole idea, whereas they're like, well, you can't blame the Achilles if he played pretty decent the first 9 games. In the last 5 games, he fell apart. Like, I think it's too complicated than that. There's so many different ways. I'm going to be a little scattered for this because there's so many different ways that I want to look at this, quite frankly. So first, let's just start off with evaluating Kirk Cousins. Would they be contenders with the Cleveland Browns? And I'll kind of just take it step by step there. With the Cleveland Browns, would they be contenders? The ultimate question is, will Kirk Cousins be what he was at least a couple years ago? That's what you're banking on, which, again, we're going to unpack a little bit more deeply in a moment. But to me, from my viewpoint, it's pretty much impossible to know that answer. I don't care of any other examples, other previous players. It's impossible to know from my viewpoint. because there was also the whole idea that those last 5 games he actually hurt his shoulder, and that's why he kind of fell apart. So then it's like, well, is it his Achilles? Is it his shoulder? You know, what's the story there? And I just don't know how anyone like Nick Wright goes in and says that this is exactly what they should do. They should definitely do this. When you're talking about a quarterback of Kirk Cousins coming off an injury, having the season that he had, there are no definites. There are no, this is exactly what they should do. There are no definites. I just don't think so. And I believe in Kirk Cousins as a player. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins from a health standpoint because I just don't know. I don't doubt it either. I just don't know. And there's no one that could know, quite frankly. Seriously, there's just no one that could reliably know. And the problem is that the Browns will need to, like, you know, the Falcons want money. They are very upset that they signed Kirk Cousins, and they are trying to do everything they can. They're desperate to try to get anything back from him. Kirk Cousins right now would be worth the $1 million deal that Russell Wilson got from the Steelers. Like, that's what he played himself into, unfortunately, where it's like, yeah, league minimum, we'll love to have you. And then we can kind of see who you are. I mean, you can make the argument that where the Browns are, that it's kind of just like, what's another 5 million, 10 million, you know, like whatever the number ends up being, because it's just like, well, what else are you going to do? And again, in terms of health, you can't automatically say that he would be better than a Kenny Pickett or some of these other potential suitors, because you don't know the health of Kirk Cousins. And there's no reason to have any degree of confidence what he will or won't be. You can't say he won't be, and you can't say he will be. You just can't. I know people don't sometimes love those answers, but it's the reality of the situation. Now, in terms of the Achilles, of it potentially being a 2-year injury and all that, and that's what it always was. Like, for such a long time, it was always this extended recovery time that we know that it takes time to get back. And then with some advancements in how they do the surgery and internal bracing and whatnot, they can, you know, speed this up. And everyone heals at a different rate. And even once you're healed and you can get back and play, there is absolutely positively a situation where he could play, be pretty good in those first 9 games, but because the Achilles heel is not 100%, that over the course of a season, the fatigue just really starts to wear and tear, and the endurance from a longevity standpoint, in terms of like the length of a season and not endurance in terms of like within a game, it just catches up to you. And then eventually the dam kind of breaks. That is 100% in the realm of the possibility. 100%. So you can't just say, since he played good in those first 9 games, we can't blame the Achilles. That's not how the human body works. That's not how recovering from injuries work. It's not this linear thing, and there's no guarantee to anything in terms of reliability, of understanding how you're going to be, or what your first year will look like, and some of the issues that you could have. I could easily blow out my knee, get surgery, be fully recovered, ball out over the first couple of games, and then in the 3rd and 4th game, I'm starting to really get a lot of swelling and soreness and weakness. Like, that's 100% par for the course, man. 100%. So a graphic like this to me is misleading if you're going to try to use it as a way to be like, it's not the Achilles, this is more Kirk Cousins just falling apart. So that's my whole point. Like, there's just no reliable way to 100% reach a conclusion, which is why, sure, for $1 million, league minimum, veteran minimum, whatever, yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. You do the flyer, and you'd have to really look at the books for the Browns at this point and what they're looking to do, because, you know, even if they have to give more money, it might be one of those things where it's just like, you know, what else is there? What other actions are there? Because I think, again, if let's say Kirk Cousins could bounce back and really play like what we believe him to be able to do, back what he was with kind of with the Vikings, I do believe with a great defense and Stefanski, he could have a tremendous amount of success. Does that mean that they're Super Bowl contenders? You know, I mean, like, that feels a bit of a stretch. I think the only way that they're Super Bowl contenders is if that defense is absolutely positively suffocating, and it proves to really be like a top 3 defense, and it's just like, you know, because then I do believe in Kirk Cousins' ability to play situational football and be an actual veteran, and he's not out there trying to prove anybody wrong or anything. Like, he's going to do exactly what Stefanski asks of him, and I think he'd be able to execute it at a very high level. So if this is a more of a defensive forward team, but I would think that the defense would have to be like kind of like what the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Eagles had been doing over the last few years, where it's like these defenses are giving up only like 17, 18 points, and they need to step up in the big games. Like in the big games when they are playing, say, the Ravens or whatever, like, and you're not trying to get in a shootout. I think Kirk Cousins would be capable of still winning a shootout, as he even proved last year, but it's just like that's not going to be the name of the game for the Cleveland Browns, like, at all. But I just don't know if there's any reliable way. You'd have to really kind of do the math and see where the Cleveland Browns are coming from in terms of, like, because that's where football is funny money in that regard. Because it could just be like, whatever. At this point, for a single year or something, there's really no difference between paying a quarterback $5 million and $30 million, because it's like, we got to spend the money somewhere, like, whatever. Like, sometimes it is like that, and sometimes no, it's not. No, it's not. It's like not that at all. And again, I don't have that answer exactly what to do in that regard, but I don't think there's, because of how Kirk Cousins played, because of the injury that he came off of, because of his age, I think there's zero reliable way. If you asked me, what is my ultimate opinion? My opinion would, on it, because I was trying to think, like, if you really backed me in a corner and said, what do you think? Do you think he'll be able to bounce back, yes or no? I was about to say yes, and I immediately was like, I can't even say that. It really is just an absolute toss-up to me. I could see it going truly both ways. He's just like, nah, man, he's just kind of done, unfortunately. Because sometimes that's what happens when you get an injury and you get the surgery. Like, it's just, not everyone makes this full recovery, and especially combined with his age. And I could also see it where it's like, no, 2 years out from this injury, he's going to have some lingering things, but nothing too substantial. Yeah, he really did hurt his shoulder, where things kind of really fell apart for him, and then it just kind of spiraled, But I'm not expecting that to happen again. Like, I just, I see it from both sides, but trying to predict his health to me is the ultimate point here for all of this. And I just think it's just, nobody could say with any degree of confidence, unless you're maybe able to kind of practice with him, right? Get him on the field, get him throwing, seeing what he looks like. Yeah, it's a weird one. It definitely is a weird one. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Atlanta Falcons potentially trading Kirk Cousins to the Cleveland Browns? Do you think Cleveland Browns should want to make that trade? Do you think they could be a legitimate contender? Do you think Kirk Cousins will have a bounce back year? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.